reputation is defined as not only who you are, but what others think of you. I mean, think of a tree as your character, and the shadow is your reputation. It's what others perceive you to be. So every interaction, every touch point relating to your business, your clients, your alumni, your vendors and resources has to do with how your reputation is perceived. I mean, you really have to go out there and ensure the channels in which you may be on today or be on in the future are protected with your domain. If it's your name, protect them. There's a lot of free available resources out there. You got to monitor that so that you keep an eye on what's going. You can't react unless you know what's going on out there. And you got to have a plan in place to respond to criticism so that you have a plan in place prior to the crisis communications that will, if you're online, it's not when, it's not if, excuse me, it's when someone responds negatively or possibly positively. And you want to encourage that as well. You all want positive buzz about our brands, but the fact is it's the internet, it's not all going to be roses.
And what I've been trying to get employers to see, and some of them are already seeing this, but some of them are still more of in that fearful, reactive mode of trying to protect their reputation, but they're not really sure how. So they're wanting employees to stay off the social media. And I've been trying to say, look, it's not going to go away. It's here to stay. Why not be more strategic and proactive and educate your people about how to use it appropriately? I always tell people, especially if you're introducing a brand new policy or updating existing ones like the confidentiality, the privacy, the harassment, have an employee meeting, talk about it, have a forum kind of like this where people can ask questions so that they just understand the expectations and there's a discussion about common sense. Is this going to look good out there online for you or the company? Not to chill their rights under the National Labor Relations Act to talk about wages and conditions of employment, but just to let them know that you're going to expect common sense and they certainly can't get out there and do defamatory things and say things that aren't true. I think if your employees are receiving tweets from you or Facebook postings on your own employer page, they're going to be a lot more cognizant of the fact that you're out there. If you embrace social media and use it as a great tool for yourself internally as your employment brand to your employees, you're going to go a long way to getting more benefit out of social media rather than just trying to avoid issues. Clearly, you got to have a policy in most cases and have your rules laid out or your guidelines laid out, but don't count on people to read it.
Well, my practice is advising employers, so the context is always what the employer needs. And generally their needs, issues, concerns fall into three categories. First, and it's a little bit what Joan said, what do we do? What employees are saying things? Well, the answer, I think, for employers is really simple. Think about these postings, what you're finding on the web, think about those as water cooler conversation. Now, admittedly, it's a water cooler on steroids, but you know, if they could have that conversation, if they could complain about their supervisor, if they could grumble about the workplace at the water cooler, which of course they can probably do it online, on the web. Policies, you've got to have policies. You know, we've got to have a social media policy, we've got to have a blogging policy. And maybe you do, depending on the workplace, some do. But the first place to focus is the policies you have now. They want to know about recommendations. So one, employee recommendations, current and former employees, but also product and services recommendations, because that's very specifically regulated by the FTC. So you've got both of those concerns, you know, what to do about that. And again, in large part, the answer comes from a policy you already have. What's your policy now? You know, on references, for example. Do you give extensive references? Do you limit the information to dates of employment, those kinds of things? Because you've probably made a decision as to why you want to do that. So that's the same thing to apply when someone asks for a recommendation on LinkedIn, for example. Before we started, we're in such a transition period. And I don't know how long it lasts, but in 5 to 10 years, everyone, you know, will have adapted and will use it and will understand more about it and the limitations. But now you know, we're kind of dealing with people at different levels, and not clearly as a, you know, a level to be concerned with, but be upfront about that.